Welcome to the stage, Rockwell Automation Director of Global Competency, Joe Alley.
Good morning again. Jim, you mentioned a skills gap, pretty profound skills gap in 2025. The primary intent of the Academy, as we said in Houston last year, is to do our part to fill the skills gap. And we do that by taking veterans that have performed in incredibly technical roles in the military and upskill them to be capable of working in a very technical, highly automated environment. Today what we're going to do is we're going to fast forward, it's a year later. We're going to take a little bit different perspective, no pun intended, on the panel. We're going to have two customers we're going to talk to, an HR manager and a president and CEO of people that have taken AM graduates into their organization. We're going to bring back Scott Bingham, so you get to see Scott again, who's been at Southwire for the past year, and you're going to get a chance to meet Ryan Klaus. So without further ado, let me introduce Ann Hansen, who's a Human Resources Manager at Federal-Mogul. And Dave Musto, who is the President and CEO of Thermo Systems. We're going to spend just a couple of minutes talking from a customer perspective, not just about the Academy, but also about the challenges that you face in today's environment from a hiring people perspective. But before we do that, and can you talk a little bit about what it is Federal-Mogul does? What as a company do you do?
Federal-Mogul is a global organization. We're in the automotive industry, and we are a supplier to the automotive industry. Everything from light duty, heavy duty, commercial, agricultural, off-road vehicles, pretty much anything that has a motor in it, we're involved in it, thankfully. As of the 1st of October, we were actually acquired by another company by the name of Tenneco, which many of you may have heard of. We complement each other very well, and we're still obviously going through a transition, but jointly, Tenneco and Federal-Mogul represent about 87,000 strong employees. So I'm happy to be here on their behalf.
It's a big organization. We're very pleased to have you. David, tell us about Thermo Systems.
Sure. We are a control systems engineering firm and a proud Rockwell solution partner. We leverage Rockwell hardware and software to design and build solutions for our manufacturing and utility customers.
Okay. In your mind, David, what is the biggest challenge your organization faces from a workforce development perspective?
Sure, Joe. For workforce, for growing and enabling the workforce, I don't like to think of it as a challenge, more as the opportunities that we have out there. Partnering with the Academy, we're able to really take advantage of bringing in newer people into our organization. Mm-hmm. But the opportunities that take a little bit more time that we're seeing in the industry is bringing in mid-level automation technologists. That just takes a little bit more time and effort.
Okay. And Ann, from a human resources perspective, roles are difficult to fill. What's the most difficult of roles to fill in your organization?
I would say for us, it's probably the skilled trades, which in our environment means electricians, electrical techs, maintenance people. We're seeing a real skills gap there. The majority of our folks who are currently in those roles have been with our company for a long time, and they're getting to the point in their career where they're looking to retire, but we don't see a lot of backfill into those positions. So it's really critical for us.
A lot of folks in the audience probably have the same challenges you do. The kinds of roles you just talked about, talk to us a little bit about the time it takes to fill those roles and the challenges that creates for your organization in doing that.
Sure. We're a very, as most companies are, we have a niche. And for us, one of the things that's most critical is not just finding someone with the right skill set, but someone who fits with our company culture. It's extremely important. On average, it's taken about 13 months to try and fill those positions with the right people. So it's a combination of between the unemployment rate, which is at record low, and that real gap in the fact that we're not seeing people enter into those types of jobs. There's more demand than there is supply, and it definitely creates a long runway in order to get the people we want.
So David, if it takes Ann, and let's just for sake of argument say Ann's your human resources person, if it takes her 13 months to bring people in your organization, then what other costs hit your team going forward because of the kinds of things, those delays and the kinds of things it takes to bring to onboard people?
It's not just the financial cost, but a delay in bringing people into the organization. There's the impact on your customers, because if you don't have the resources at hand to meet the needs of your clients, that's going to impact you. It's going to impact your ability to service those clients. There's also the impact on your existing team. If you're not well staffed, it really creates a negative impact on your team. It's bad for morale. It's bad for the culture. So.
Do you see the skills gap at Thermal Systems, David?
We don't, because we're a young company that's going out and deploying solutions for firms like Ann's and others. So we don't see so much a skills gap. Really, it's just an opportunity to bring in people into the organization, let the people in the organization then move up. But we just need to continue to work hard to find those locations and resources to bring those people in.
As we sit here today in November of 2018, the Academy of Advanced Manufacturing and the resulting placements of individuals that graduate from the Academy are focused in the United States. But the reality is that the challenges from a skills gap perspective are global. So if you could each talk a little bit about what advice, there's a lot of folks from around the world in the audience, talk to the audience a little bit about what advice you would give them in kind of bringing people into the organization, addressing those challenges, and how they can move forward.
I think it has to be very intentional and very strategic. At least that's the approach that we've taken, knowing that we do have, on average, a 13-month gap. Now, granted, sometimes we get real lucky and we find someone quicker than that. But the reality is, even to get them up to speed, there's a long runway, and we need to prepare for that so we don't have issues like Dave is speaking of. We need to keep our customers supplied, or they won't be customers for long. So it becomes very strategic in nature for us. It is something that, on a global basis, as an organization that is global, it is very much a concern. As a matter of fact, we have found this to be a concern in absolutely every country we operate in except one. And that has more to do with the culture of that company and how family members essentially work at the same company their parents did. So it's not an issue there. But virtually everywhere else, at least that federal mogul is, this is an issue. So it needs to be strategic.
We've heard this morning about a lot of, and I'm old, so these are the terms I have to use, really cool technology, right? The PTC stuff, the cybersecurity things we just heard. Those are technological challenges. Does advancing technology and the pace of technology, does that create recruiting challenges for you and your organization as well? Ann?
It does for us. You want to stay, you need to stay on the cutting edge of things. So that means constantly trying to upskill and make sure not only you're upskilling, but that your current workforce is continuing to be invested. It's a constant challenge, and it needs to be in the forefront.
So, David, you're providing solutions to customers that are using all of these technological advances. How does the changing landscape affect what you need to do on a day-to-day basis in your organization? Not just onboarding people, but getting them capable of doing the kinds of things they need to do going forward?
All stems from having just a robust training plan, from the onboarding program through their advancement, developing and implementing a training program so that these technologists can keep up with what's going on in the industry and be able to deploy those solutions for the clients.
Both Federal Mogul and Thermal Systems have invested in the Academy of Advanced Manufacturing. If there are people in the audience or people that ultimately see this video online, what advice would you give them about what the Academy brings to your organization and how it can be used? And if you could comment first.
I guess if there was one thing I would say, if you're hesitating even in the slightest, especially after just seeing that video, don't hesitate. It was very much again, I hate to keep using the word strategic, but it was very much a strategic venture for us. Didn't know exactly how it would work or if it would work the way we had hoped, but it has been a learning curve for us as a company, but it's also given us a great opportunity to try and not only spread our wings as far as what's possible, but also to take the young man that we have on board with us and really explore further opportunities with him. Ultimately, I think that Pierce is going to be someone for us who is one of those very cutting-edge individuals. The way he thinks, the way he operates within our environment, it's just, he's been a real gift to us.
Okay, that's great to hear. David?
I would just say that we're all in with the AAM program, and my advice to other systems integration firms and other service providers out there is to check it out. What we found was the candidates are extremely well screened before they enter the program. So the amount of time and really money that it saves us in coming to the program and recruiting at the program is immense. The candidates are pre-screened. After the 12-week program, they enter our workforce work ready, ready to go. So we're all in.
We appreciate that very much. Before we bring Scott and Ryan onto the stage, the one person that those of you that were here last year that wasn't in the video, Dre, you might be wondering what's going on with Dre. Dre just was recently promoted to Senior Manufacturing Technician at U.S. Steel. So he's been there about a year and he's doing very well as well. Now let's welcome Scott Bingham and Ryan Klaus to the stage. Scott, as you saw in the video, is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and he is now a senior technician at Southwire. Scott Bingham. And Ryan Klaus served in the Marine Corps as a ground radio repair person and is starting to work for one of our great distributors, Rexel, in the very near future. Ryan, welcome. So Scott, you answered this for the panel last year, so we'll just kind of hit this briefly for you. Refresh the audience's minds relative to what you feel like the reason was you came to the Academy.
There's no way I can repeat exactly what I said last year because a year has passed, but the program offered me an opportunity that I wouldn't have had anywhere else, especially as a veteran. And when I went through the process of getting into the program and seeing what Rockwell was doing for veterans and giving those kind of opportunities to veterans to change their careers and give them a new career, I knew I was in the right place.
Okay. Ryan, you just recently made this decision, right? You came to Mayfield Heights and were part of the program that started in August. What drove that decision for you?
So I was on active duty in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I was a radio repair technician, got to do a lot of cool things, meet a lot of great people. And like a lot of other veterans, I got out and I was looking for an opportunity to use the skills that I had learned while I was in the Marine Corps, things that I was doing each and every single day. It just made sense as far as practicality to not let all those skills go to waste. But I found, like a lot of other veterans find, that there's not a lot of direct opportunities for veterans who are coming out, even if you've held highly technical positions, to directly jump into a civilian equivalent employment opportunity. So that's what Rockwell presented with his program, and that was really something huge.
We tend in these panels to kind of focus on the technical piece because that's the kind of front and center thing.
Right.
But the reality is that one of the things that the Academy does that's really kind of driven by our great partner Manpower Group is professional skills training. Can you first, Ryan, and then Scott, talk about what the professional skills training did for you, the interview things and the resume building and the personal interactions and things like that?
Sure. So one thing, veterans have a lot of things that they do well, a lot of things that they excel in as far as bearing and things of that nature. One thing that veterans might not do as well is tact and professional situations as far as those things are concerned.
You're referring, of course, to people in the Air Force, not people in the Marine Corps.
Right, of course. So I thought it was really cool and interesting that Rockwell and Manpower kind of had the forefront to see that, the foresight to see that, and really took a big step and really put that into the curriculum as far as meeting with a professional coach each and every day, going through resume building and things of that nature, just really putting a lot of effort and time into that civilian transition, which is really important.
Scott, you're a year removed from this now, but a lot of the professional skills was understanding styles and human interaction and things like that. Have you used any of that at Southwire?
Oh, absolutely. My transition into the position that I have in Southwire now, it's been a year, but for me, I remember having been out of the military for a number of years and been in the professional sector. When I got into the AAM program, the thing that stuck out to me more than anything else was how the professional and skills training and the other pieces of it, the non-technical pieces, helped to build our team. The class turned into a team, and none of us had ever met each other, but we all had one thing in common: we were all veterans. And it really, really, the exercises that we did and all the different things that Manpower provided and were facilitated by you at AAM, they brought us together as a group. And that was really important, knowing that this is 12 weeks of, as I said in the video a year ago, drinking from the fire hose. It was high pressure, and the team that we had helped us all get through that.
Just for people that don't know, can you talk a little bit about what Southwire does and what your role at Southwire is?
Southwire is located in Carrollton, Georgia. We are the largest wire and cable manufacturer in the U.S., and I believe we're still third in the world. It's a privately held company. It's a benchmark company in Western Georgia. It's a huge employment base in that part of Georgia. My position there, I've been there a year. I started as an electrical instructor working in the maintenance systems group, and that took skills that I had learned at AAM and put them directly to use in and helping to administer the apprenticeship program that Southwire has for just the same type of skills gap fill for us as you all were talking about, and also doing a certification, hands-on certification testing for new onboarded employees. They hired me into that position on the strength of AAM, on what I learned and how we interacted during the introduction and during the interview process. My latest promotion has put me into a position where I am actually boots on the ground working in a plant as an electronics tech, maintaining the equipment, after having spent a year getting a really good feel for the company, the distributed nature. We have plants all over the U.S., and now I'm getting to use the skills, the technical skills that I was given through the AAM training to be a productive member of the maintenance team and help take the company forward with all the types of things that we just heard in the last presentations.
That's great. Ryan, you had options. Coming out of placement days, you had options. But you ended up selecting Rexel, and Rexel selected you. What drove that decision?
There was a lot of personal factors behind my decision. Being able to be one of the first people out of AAM, one of the first graduates, to be hired on with a Rockwell distributor is a pretty great bonus. That I'll be staying within the Rockwell family is a great thing. But as far as what led to my decision, I would have to say that it was kind of how they presented themselves. They really presented themselves as a company who kind of cared about me as a particular person. They really showed a lot of initiative. You know, the deadline to the deadline for them to be able to actually contact us about job interviews was 5 p.m. on that Thursday, and by 5:30, I had 3 missed calls from the.
Yeah, that was the first time they could contact you. It was 5 o'clock, and you had to call at
5:30. I had 3 missed calls and an email. So they showed a lot of interest, which was I didn't want to kind of neglect that, and that took a lot of into consideration.
Let's go back to the class for a second, Ryan. David talked about the fact that when folks come into your organization, they hit the ground running, and that's a huge plus. But the other side of that is when you're in the academy for 12 weeks, it comes kind of fast and furious.
It does.
What was that like for you?
It was, what's the best word for this? I would say the best word for it was intense, but it was absolutely awesome, for lack of a better word. I went in only having a basis in electronics and things of that nature, Marine Corps communications equipment, and from day one, I started learning new things, and like I said, throughout the entire 12 weeks, I came out, with a lot, pretty good knowledge base.
Okay. Starting with the July class that we ran in Milwaukee, and then following on to the August class, we did a different exercise. We did the Amazing Race and kind of the Day Zero activity, and coming out of that, both classes came up with class creeds, which was their driving force. It's what they went back to as they were on program for the 12 weeks. What was your class's creed?
Our class creed was care about each other and commit to the learning. So it was really important for us, even on day zero. I think that has a lot to do with all being veterans, but even on day zero, to see everyone really care about finishing together and being that team, because everyone comes for their own individual reasons, and it doesn't really matter if the guy next to you graduates. It doesn't affect you personally unless you have that team mentality that veterans, I feel like, bring. So that was really cool to see.
The interesting thing about the class creed thing is Milwaukee started on July 19th, and Mayfield Heights started on August 20th. It was actually 3 weeks apart. It was actually July 29th, I'm sorry. And Ryan told you what their creed was. Separate, apart, no prompting. The Milwaukee class creed was finished together. So it kind of speaks to what you talked about, the bond and the brotherhood and the sisterhood and being together. We're going to kind of close the conversation with a question for all four of you, for you, Ann and David, from the customer perspective, and for Scott and Ryan from somebody in the program perspective. What advice would you give to companies and looking to participate in the Academy of Advanced Manufacturing? What would you say to them?
Well, definitely do it. It was something that was a little different concept initially, but quite frankly, very in line with some strategic initiatives that we had and we're starting to develop within Federal Mogul. So for us, it was comfortable. It was something that we felt really could take hold and be an immediate value to us. I guess I would say trust in the outcomes that you've seen so far.
Okay. David, same question.
Sure, and really similar answer, get engaged and do it. And look past, look past the recruiting costs and see the big picture of getting a team member on board with that type of training that's been thoroughly screened and vetted and can enter your workforce work ready. It's we're a business. It's a great return on investment, and you combine that with it's a veterans program. It's the right thing to do. Just check it out.
Okay. Scott, now from somebody that's looking at, has seen something online and is interested in participating in the academy, what would you say to them?
I would say don't even think twice. I know it changed my life. It gave me a new professional and personal direction. And I've never seen a program, and I haven't found one of the others that are out there that honors us as veterans as much as this program does. And I feel that I was prepared to move forward with my life, and I would just tell them, I'm living proof that it works. I'm living proof that this program is successful. And I could direct them to any of my brothers and sisters that were part of the pilot class and say that this program's been running for a year, and it's continuing to produce quality graduates who are getting placed with strong companies that are very much veteran focused. And that's a good thing for our economy, and it's a good thing for this country.
And Ryan?
So if I had to say something to the people in charge of this program and employers that are thinking about signing on with this program, I would say don't overlook the impact that you're having on these veterans' lives. Manufacturing is great, and making things is great, and making money is great, but to be able to have a visible impact on somebody's life, especially a veteran's life. A lot of the veterans, came in with minimum wage jobs and are leaving with high salary positions. I took a role that normally requires an electrical engineering degree. Those things change people's lives, change families' lives. So, to Blake and everyone who was kind of at the forefront of this program, I would just say thank you, and don't ever lose sight of how much you're impacting veterans.
Amen.
I'd be remiss before we close if I didn't just take a second to acknowledge again, Rockwell Automation is an organization, as we've heard this morning, that very much is built and leverages partnerships. And we're fortunate in AAM to partner with two organizations, Manpower Group, who's a lead partner and is every bit as vested into AAM as we are, and their CEO, Jonas Priesing. And in addition to that, Anderson Hauser, who brings the instrumentation training that allows us to provide that certification as well. So we're very appreciative of that. We're going to leave it right there. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and certainly thank you very much for your service.